Have you ever trusted someone so completely that you'd hand them your entire life without a second thought? I did. And the night before what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, that trust destroyed everything I thought I knew about love, friendship, and loyalty. My name is Emma, and this is the story of how my best friend and maid of honor slept with my husband the night before our wedding. It started like any other love story, I suppose. I met David at a coffee shop downtown 3 years ago. He was charming, funny, and had this way of making me feel like I was the only person in the room. We clicked instantly, and within 6 months, we were inseparable. When he proposed 18 months later on the beach where we had our first official date, I thought I was living in a fairy tale. But every princess needs her trusted companion, right? That's where Jessica comes in. We'd been best friends since high school, the kind of friendship where you finish each other's sentences and share every secret. She was the first person I called when David proposed, and when I asked her to be my maid of honor, she cried happy tears and said it would be the greatest privilege of her life. For the next 8 months, Jessica and I planned my wedding together. She helped me choose the venue, the flowers, the music. She was there for every dress fitting, every cake tasting, every moment of stress and excitement. She held my hair back when wedding planning overwhelmed me to the point of nausea, and she talked me down from countless bridezilla moments. David seemed to love Jessica too. He always said how lucky I was to have such a devoted friend and how grateful he was that someone cared about me as much as she did. The three of us spent countless evenings together, planning details, sharing meals, laughing until our sides hurt. I thought we were the perfect trio, the bride, the groom, and the best friend who would stand by us forever. 2 weeks before the wedding, Jessica moved into our apartment to help with last-minute preparations. It made sense at the time. She was already spending every day there anyway, helping with decorations, managing vendor communications, and keeping me sane. Having her there full-time felt like having a live-in wedding coordinator and emotional support system all in one. The night before the wedding was supposed to be perfect. We'd planned a quiet evening, just me, Jessica, and my mom, doing our nails, watching romantic comedies, and getting ready for the big day. David was having his bachelor party that same night, just a small gathering with his groomsmen at his brother's house. But, as I would soon discover, nothing about that night went according to plan. The evening started exactly as we'd planned. My mom arrived around 6 with Chinese takeout and a bottle of champagne. Jessica had already set up a little spa station in the living room with face masks, nail polish, and all the romance movies we could possibly watch in one night. I remember feeling so grateful, so overwhelmed with love for the people in my life who cared enough to make this night special. We painted our nails a soft pink that matched my wedding bouquet, did clay face masks that made us look like green monsters, and laughed until we cried at the cheesy romantic comedies Jessica had picked out. My mom shared stories about her own wedding day, giving me advice about marriage and telling me how proud she was of the woman I'd become. Around 10 o'clock, my mom hugged us both goodbye. "Get some sleep, sweetheart," she told me, kissing my forehead. "Tomorrow is going to be the most beautiful day of your life." After she left, Jessica and I settled in for what I thought would be more girl talk and maybe one more movie, but something felt different. Jessica seemed restless, checking her phone constantly and glancing toward the door every few minutes. "Everything okay?" I asked, pausing the movie we'd just started. "Yeah, of course," she said quickly, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. "I'm just, nervous about tomorrow, making sure everything goes perfectly for you." I thought it was sweet that she was so invested in my happiness. Jessica had always been a perfectionist, especially when it came to important events. I figured she was probably running through her maid of honor checklist in her head, making sure she hadn't forgotten anything. Around 11, I started yawning. "I think I should get some sleep," I said. "Big day tomorrow." "You go ahead," Jessica said, still scrolling through her phone. "I'm going to stay up a little longer, maybe review the timeline one more time and make sure I have everything ready." I hugged her goodnight, feeling so lucky to have a friend who cared so much about making my wedding day perfect. As I headed to the bedroom, I called out, "Thank you for everything, Jess. I couldn't have done any of this without you." "You don't need to thank me." And there was something strange in her voice that I couldn't quite identify at the time. That's what best friends are for. I fell asleep that night thinking about how blessed I was. I had the love of my life waiting to marry me in less than 12 hours, and I had the most loyal, devoted friend standing by my side. But around 2 in the morning, something woke me up. I'm not sure what exactly pulled me from sleep. Maybe it was the sound of the front door opening, or maybe it was just wedding day nerves. But I found myself lying in bed, fully awake, staring at the ceiling in the darkness. I checked my phone. 2:17 a.m. My wedding was in less than 10 hours, and I needed to be well rested and glowing. I tried to close my eyes and fall back asleep, but then I heard voices in the living room. Quiet voices, trying not to wake me. One of them was definitely Jessica, but the other voice made my blood run cold. It was David. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe something had gone wrong at his bachelor party. Maybe one of the groomsmen had gotten too drunk and they'd had to cut the night short. Maybe he'd come by to check on me or to grab something he had forgotten. But then I heard Jessica's soft laughter, followed by David's voice saying, "I've been thinking about this all night." My heart started pounding. I slipped out of bed and crept toward the bedroom door, pressing my ear against it. What I heard next changed everything. "Are you sure about this?" Jessica whispered. "What if she wakes up?" "She's a heavy sleeper, and after tomorrow, this gets a lot more complicated." I could barely breathe. My mind was racing, trying to process what I was hearing, trying to find some innocent explanation. But deep down, I already knew. "I can't believe we're doing this the night before her wedding," Jessica said, and I could hear the guilt in her voice, but also something else. Excitement. That's what makes it so perfect. One last time before I'm officially off the market. One last time. The words hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't their first time. How long had this been going on? How many times had my best friend and my fiancé betrayed me? I heard movement in the living room, the sound of the couch creaking, whispered words I couldn't quite make out. And then I heard something that made me want to vomit. Jessica saying my name. "Emma would never forgive us if she knew." "Then we make sure she never finds out," David replied. "What she doesn't know won't hurt her." I stood there, in the darkness, my hand over my mouth to keep from making any sound, listening to the two people I trusted most in the world plan to continue their affair right under my nose. My wedding dress was hanging in the closet behind me, waiting for a day that felt like a complete lie. Part of me wanted to burst through that door and confront them immediately, but another part of me was too shocked, too devastated to move. How do you process the fact that your entire life is built on deception? And then I heard something that made the betrayal even worse. "You know what the worst part is?" I heard Jessica say, and her voice was clearer now, as if they'd moved closer to the bedroom door. "She actually thanked me tonight. She said she couldn't have done any of this without me." David laughed quietly, and the sound made my skin crawl. "She has no idea. God, she's so trusting, so naive." "Sometimes I feel bad about it," Jessica continued. "But then I remember how perfect we are together, how we should have been together from the beginning." "We should have," David agreed. "If only I'd met you first." My legs almost gave out. They were talking about me like I was some obstacle in their path, some inconvenient detail in their love story. The woman who was supposed to stand beside me at the altar in a few hours was discussing how naive and trusting I was, while betraying that trust in the most devastating way possible. "When did you know?" Jessica asked. "When did you realize you had feelings for me?" Honestly, about 6 months after Emma and I got engaged. Remember that night we all went to that wine bar and you and I ended up talking until 3 in the morning while Emma was sick at home? I remembered that night. I'd had food poisoning and had to cancel our group plans. David came home and told me how Jessica had kept him company, how sweet she'd been to stay and chat with him so he wouldn't feel bad about the ruined evening. I'd been touched by her thoughtfulness. That was the night I realized I was falling for you. The way you laughed at my jokes, the way you really listened when I talked about my dreams. Emma never listened like that. She doesn't understand you the way I do. She's a good person, but she's not right for you. We both know it. Hearing them dissect my relationship, my personality, my shortcomings, while planning to let me walk down the aisle in ignorance was almost unbearable. But I forced myself to keep listening. I needed to know everything. "So what happens after tomorrow?" Jessica asked. "After the wedding?" "We wait. Give it a few months, maybe a year, then I'll start having problems with the marriage. I'll say we're growing apart, that we want different things. I'll ask for a divorce, and you'll be there to comfort me through it. And then we can finally be together. No more sneaking around." Exactly. Emma will never suspect anything. She'll probably even lean on you for support during the divorce. You'll be the friend helping her through her heartbreak, never knowing you caused it. The cruelty of their plan was breathtaking. They weren't just planning to betray me, they were planning to manipulate me through the entire process, using my trust and love against me even as they destroyed my life. But then I heard something that changed everything about my next move. "You know what I'm looking forward to most?" Jessica said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. "Watching her walk down the aisle tomorrow, thinking she's marrying the love of her life, when really she's just giving me the perfect cover story." "What do you mean?" David asked. "Think about it. Who's gonna suspect the maid of honor? I'll be right there in all the photos, smiling and supporting her. The perfect, loyal friend. It's the ultimate disguise." That was it. That was the moment something inside me snapped completely. It wasn't just the affair anymore. It wasn't even the elaborate plan to destroy my marriage. It was the pure enjoyment Jessica was getting from deceiving me. She was looking forward to standing next to me at the altar, knowing what she'd done, knowing what she was planning to do, and finding it amusing. I realized I had two choices. I could burst through that door right now and confront them both, letting all my rage and heartbreak spill out in a chaotic scene that would probably end with me screaming and crying while they made excuses. Or I could be strategic about this. They thought I was naive and trusting. They thought I would never suspect anything. Fine, let them think that. But I wasn't going to be their victim. I quietly moved away from the door and grabbed my phone. My fingers were shaking as I opened the voice recording app. I needed evidence. I needed proof of what they were saying because I knew that when confronted, they would both lie and try to gaslight me into thinking I'd misunderstood or imagined things. I crept back to the door and held my phone close to the crack, recording their conversation. They were still talking, planning their future together, discussing how they would handle various scenarios after my inevitable divorce. After I had about 10 minutes of clear audio, I stopped recording and backed away from the door. I had everything I needed, but now I had to decide what to do with it. Part of me wanted to call off the wedding immediately, to wake up everyone we knew and expose them both for what they were. But as I sat there in the darkness, another plan began to form in my mind. A plan that would give them exactly what they deserved. They wanted to use my wedding as the perfect cover for their affair. They wanted to stand there tomorrow, smiling and pretending while secretly laughing at how naive I was. Well, I was about to show them just how naive I really wasn't. And that's when I decided to give them a wedding day they would never forget. I barely slept the rest of the night, but when morning came, I was ready. I got up early, showered, and started getting ready as if nothing had happened. When Jessica woke up, I greeted her with a smile and thanked her again for being such an amazing friend. "How did you sleep?" she asked, and I could see her trying to read my expression. Like a baby, I lied smoothly. I'm so excited for today. The morning flew by in a blur of hair, makeup, and getting dressed. Jessica played her part perfectly, the devoted maid of honor, helping me with my dress, fixing my veil, telling me how beautiful I looked. If I hadn't heard her the night before, I would have believed every word. When we arrived at the venue, everything was exactly as we'd planned. The flowers were perfect, the music was beautiful, and all our family and friends were there, beaming with joy. David looked handsome in his tuxedo, and when he saw me, his face lit up with what appeared to be genuine love and excitement. The ceremony began, and I walked down the aisle with my father, smiling at all the faces I loved. Jessica stood at the altar in her pink bridesmaid dress, holding my bouquet, looking like the picture of loyalty and friendship. When the pastor asked if anyone had any reason why David and I should not be wed, I waited through the traditional pause. Then I spoke up. Actually, I do. The entire congregation gasped. David's face went white, and Jessica's bouquet trembled in her hands. I asked her to be my maid of honor, and she slept with my husband the night before my wedding. The silence was deafening, but I wasn't finished. I pulled out my phone and played the recording. Jessica's voice filled the church. Watching her walk down the aisle tomorrow, thinking she's marrying the love of her life, when really she's just giving me the perfect cover story. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Gasps, shouts, people standing up in shock. My mother started crying. David's mother looked like she wanted to disappear, but I stood there, calm and composed, watching as David and Jessica's carefully constructed lies crumbled around them. The wedding is off, but thank you all for coming. The reception hall is paid for, so please, enjoy the party. I know I will. I walked back down the aisle alone, my head held high, leaving behind a man who never deserved me and a friend who never truly was one. 6 months later, I was living my best life, surrounded by people who actually loved and respected me. And David and Jessica? Well, they got exactly what they wanted, each other, and nothing else. Did you like this content? Then subscribe to the channel, activate the bell so you don't miss the next videos, leave a like, and share with anyone who needs to reflect on these family challenges. Together, we can transform our relationships.